Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to discuss one of the most common struggles athletes face that hold them back from reaching their full potential: perfectionism. In addition, I'm going to reveal 11 signs that you or someone you know may be struggling with perfectionism. Also, make sure to watch until the end of the video as I offer one powerful solution on how to start overcoming this difficult struggle. In sports and in life, perfectionism is a personality trait that is characterized by an athlete's striving for flawless standards. This means that athletes give little to no error for their mistakes, and as a result, end up becoming one of their own harshest critics. In fact, athletes who struggle with perfectionism set excessively high performance expectations, which often lead to numerous performance and emotional setbacks. And as a result, perfectionism is one of the leading struggles among top athletes in all levels of sport. Now, what are some signs that you may be struggling with perfectionism? Well, let's go through some of them now. The first sign that you may be struggling with perfectionism is through excessive analysis. Athletes who are perfectionists often obsess over mistakes and details in their performance. These athletes often fall into the famous quote, paralysis by analysis, known in psychology as analysis paralysis. This means athletes will critique every detail of the performance to the point of sabotaging their future competitions. And oftentimes, this type of analysis is heavily self-critical, with much more negative than positive feedback. Now, before going into the second sign of perfectionism, it's important to note that just because an athlete demonstrates a sign of perfectionism doesn't mean that there's something wrong. Perfectionism is more about the degree of severity than the number of perfectionistic traits. When I say severity, I mean how maladaptive these signs are in affecting the athlete's everyday life and emotional well-being. The key word that separates these qualities from healthy to unhealthy is obsessive. When these signs impair happiness, stress levels, relationships, and/or performance, this is when they need to be addressed. Also, please like the video as it greatly helps out the channel's algorithm. If you feel stuck in an area of your sport or are looking to gain a mental edge over the competition, please subscribe to the channel. I post new mental toughness videos every week. These videos will help give you a mental edge over the rest of the field. The second sign of perfectionism is emotional fragility. Due to the cognitive nature of perfectionists, they get upset far more easily after mistakes. This results in slower improvement rates and higher levels of practice turnovers, where perfectionist athletes mentally check out or even physically leave the training session. In addition, perfectionist athletes often experience more nerves and worry than other athletes. This leads to overthinking and poor performance. The third sign of perfectionism is craving approval and validation. Perfectionism in and of itself is based upon some level of societal standard and comparison. Therefore, athletes who are perfectionists often compare their performances to others, while chasing specific numeric accolades such as ranking and data-driven results such as batting average, winning percentage, scoring average, setting a new PR, and more. Not that data is a bad thing, but perfectionists often take it to the extreme, obsessing over data to the point where it often affects their cognitive and emotional well-being. The fourth sign of perfectionism is self-criticism. Perfectionists are oftentimes their worst critics. They struggle with pessimism and see the glass half empty as opposed to half full. This behavior is often displayed outwardly to people who the athlete is close to, such as parents, coaches, and even teammates. As a parent or coach, you may notice your athlete breaking down and venting to you about their struggles. Also, look out for how perfectionist athletes feel the need to overly explain their mistakes and losses. The fifth sign of perfectionism is procrastination. Perfectionist athletes train hard, but often struggle exposing their performance to competition. This is due to their fear of failure and judgment. As a result, perfectionist athletes oftentimes delay competition, even convincing themselves that they still need a little more practice before the next upcoming competition. This behavior often leads to less competitions and an increase in performance anxiety. The sixth sign of perfectionism is hypersensitivity to feedback. Perfectionist athletes often struggle in private lessons and team workouts when coaches are offering constructive feedback on their mistakes. As a result, Perfectionist athletes may even become raged and overly upset to the point of losing any potential gains in practice. The 7th sign of perfectionism is dissatisfaction. Perfectionists struggle with the joy of training and competition because in their minds they often spend most of their time in the future and the past, worrying if they're good enough, and also unhappy with the lack of progress or missed past opportunities. The 8th sign of perfectionism is the practice versus competition performance gap. For many perfectionist athletes, they perform better in practice than in games and competitions. This occurs for many reasons, and one major reason is called identity conflict. Perfectionist athletes often identify competition with their own self-worth, and as a result experience excessive levels of anxiety in competitions that are not present in practice. This is because perfectionist athletes feel an added responsibility to achieve ideal results on the big stage and use competition as a measuring tool for self-worth. The 9th sign of perfectionism is polarized behavior and beliefs. Perfectionists struggle with flexibility in their own lives and are often rigid in the way they train. This is also known as the all or nothing approach. Perfectionists often believe that there is only one way to succeed, and that any other method will jeopardize their sports and life goals. This is often displayed through disagreements with other people's beliefs, such as coaches and their peers, as well as inflexibility in any schedule changes and daily routines. The 10th sign of perfectionism is overtraining. Perfectionist athletes dedicate extensive amounts of time working on their performance. This is due to their psychological nature, that perfectionism is the end goal. As a result, perfectionist athletes will often sacrifice their own personal time, family time, and well-being in exchange for achieving an unrealistic standard of excellence. The 11th sign of perfectionism is idealizing achievements. To many perfectionist athletes, success is never enough. These athletes always find new reasons why their improvement is still not worthy of acknowledgement and revert back to obsessing over their flaws and enhancing future outcomes. The 12th sign of perfectionism is difficulty letting go. Perfectionists often hold on to losses and disappointments for longer periods of time than other top athletes. In addition, they often spend obsessive amounts of time correcting technical and tactical mistakes, as athletes prioritize the perfection of their performance above all things, including relationships. This means that perfectionist athletes may delay or even inhibit other life-changing events in their lives, socially, financially, physically, and mentally. Now let's discuss one powerful solution to perfectionism. But before going into it, it's critical to note that if you're struggling heavily with perfectionism to the point that it's greatly affecting your everyday life, then please seek professional help. This tip is only for educational purposes and is not intended to treat nor cure perfectionism. Okay, so one powerful tip to overriding perfectionism is attacking your perfectionist struggles. If you notice that you rate high on any of these categories, start by challenging one of them by simply doing the opposite. For example, if you struggle with excessive analysis, then go for a week of practice without watching any video or researching any websites on how to improve your performance. If you struggle with difficulty letting go, then commit to a week without training on that particular area of your game, or take a week off altogether and instead explore another area of emotional joy, such as spending more time with loved ones. This approach is first about training your brain to be okay with imperfection. In addition, it's also about training your mind to tolerate the restlessness that often follows withdrawing from perfectionist behaviors. Now, for every athlete, it's different. So for some of you, a week may feel like far too long, and for others, a week may not challenge your perfectionist behaviors enough. Therefore, adjust accordingly. You may even attack the perfectionist behavior 1 hour at a time, or start with trying to eliminate it altogether. Also, if you relapse, it's okay and completely normal. Remember, it's not about perfecting it, it's about improving it. Consistency over perfectionism is the way to go. So if you make a mistake, just start over from where you left off and aim to do better next time. Overall, perfectionism is a trait that robs athletes of better performance outcomes and their happiness both in and outside of sports. It's important to note once more that these signs of perfectionism are not only about how many categories one falls into, but more about the degree of how each sign affects an athlete's life. Although we covered many signs, we haven't even scratched the surface of how to overcome perfectionism. For that component, I encourage you to check out the company website linked below to learn more about the program and how to get started on maximizing your performance. The SPMI program has helped impact the lives of athletes in a powerful way by creating transformational change in their confidence, focus, emotional control, habits, goals, physical results, and overall happiness. Throughout the years, I've had the opportunity of working with athletes in all ages and levels, including athletes at the highest levels in professional sports. I left some links below to read up on just some of the many success stories, as well as a link to the testimonial page, where you may hear from other past SPMI athletes and their experience with the SPMI program. At SPMI, I offer live group training, online courses, and live one-on-one sessions with myself from the comfort of your own home. Once more, please like the video if you haven't already, and remember to subscribe to the channel as I take pleasure in providing valuable content for athletes, from mental toughness tips to podcasts, webinars, and more. So keep working hard, keep aspiring for more, and until next time.